Welcome to another Monday Blitz. I'm glad you're here with me today as we look at another wonderful chapter in the book of Matthew. We're looking at Matthew 17, the story of the Transfiguration. And if you have ever been in one of those places where you just wanted God to reassure you of something, to encourage you, to lift you up, this story of the Transfiguration should be just that for you, an encouragement. How God steps in, lifts Jesus up, encourages him, and at the same time encourages the three disciples there as they stood and viewed and watched this encounter where Jesus is glorified, recognized by the Father, and has this encounter with Moses and Elijah. Matthew shares it in an interesting way as he has just finished sharing how Jesus has told the disciples he is going to die for the sins of the world, and that through his death, life is given to others, and that there is a hope and a promise of this eternal life that is for everyone. And now, here just 6 days later, Matthew says, we see these three disciples going with Jesus to the mountainside. And while they're there, heaven comes down. Elijah and Moses show up and are in communion with Jesus. And Peter, being Peter, goes, hey, we should celebrate this. We should make this a big scene. What a wonderful time this is. Elijah and Moses have arrived. Now for us, we may not see the significance in this, but for the Jews, they had been in darkness basically for 400 years. And the disciples knew the prophecies. They had been taught the prophecies, and they knew the history. And the Old Testament ends there in Malachi chapter 4 with a statement that Elijah the prophet will come. And now here Elijah is. And for those three disciples, they were certain this was the answer to any question about whether Jesus was the Messiah. Elijah had now come. It was encouragement. It was energizing. It gave them hope. They were excited. And as they got ready to leave the mountain, after hearing now the voice of God even declaring that Jesus was his son, the Messiah, the chosen one, Jesus tells them, don't race out to tell people. Wait until after the resurrection. Now that might seem odd. And in fact, the disciples couldn't even quite understand why Jesus had told them, hold off on this story. Don't go sharing this one yet. But as we continue to read, the disciples had interpreted that Moses and Elijah coming was the fulfillment of what Malachi had promised would take place. But in fact, Jesus points out that it is not the transfiguration that is the culmination of that prophecy of Malachi, but rather the life and teachings of John the Baptist. He was the forerunner of Christ. And so, as the disciples heard this and began to resonate with it and appreciate what was going on, they realized that this here was an encouragement for Jesus, an assurance to Jesus that he was fulfilling the calling, the mission that he was here to do, to save the world from sin. It was also an encouragement to the disciples, because there was a death that was coming. There was a separation that was going to come that they were not expecting. And through these little actions, these little events like the Transfiguration, God was encouraging the disciples. There are things in our lives today also that God uses to encourage us, whether it's a friend praying for us, a Bible passage that we haven't noticed before. God uses things to encourage us because it is a long walk with him. It is a war with sin. We live in a sinful world. We long for the day for Jesus to return, but until then we need to be strengthened and encouraged from time to time. And I am so thankful that God encourages us today, just as he encouraged the disciples, just as he encouraged Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. Claim those opportunities to be encouraged. Embrace them. Allow your mind and body to be refreshed and renewed through the encouragement that God gives. Until next time.